Thank you, everybody. Tim, new to the show.
Hello, how are you?
Welcome, and you look after Southeast Asia.
That's right, yes. So based in Hong Kong, but cover mainland China, Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, Japan, all those lovely countries.
Good. And Ross, obviously a regular on the show. Actually, Ross, last time you were on, it was just before Christmas, and we sort of did a roundup. Now, if I remember rightly, you had 4 top tips or hot. How did they go? I remember one was Swancourt, Birmingham. I remember you had Deptford. How did that go?
So the hot deals that we put out have either been all sold out or are all in legals already. So it was hugely effective. So it was a great webinar. Thanks for that, Chris. And I believe since then you've won an award.
I told you not to mention that, Ross.
Well, I like to spread good news.
So this is going to be good. London Commuter Belt had lots of texts and messages. Well, where, Chris? Where? And we kept it a bit of a secret. So I'm looking forward to this. Ross, up to you.
Thank you, Chris. Well, look, the first slide on screen is just for anyone's benefit that hasn't dealt with API or doesn't know our core business. So without reading word for word, it is a true end-to-end service. So from our London office, where I'm based here, we run through a lot of due diligence and analysis on where is the next investable hotspot, who is the next developer to partner with, where is the funding coming from, and we will select the asset. Our consultants are based globally throughout 7 offices to service Holborn, and we have a huge knowledge and a huge support basis that we give to all of the consultants with training, webinars like this, Zooms and sit downs with clients. We then run through the sales progress. We then have legal support with our in-house solicitors and conveyancing team. We issue construction updates against the sales that people have purchased on a quarterly basis. Once we're coming up to the completion phase of a project, we'll then get involved with the mortgage support. We will have pre-approved mortgage lenders on hand to take care of that, the loan to value side of the purchase. Once you've completed on the asset, obviously a buy-to-let is only a successful buy-to-let once it's let. So our lettings and management service, which is Redstone, our sister company, will take over and manage the asset for you. And the final step, Chris, as you know, is when clients are looking to exit any of their assets, we have our distribution network on board in the UK, ready to sell any property for them.
That's brilliant. And you know, there are so many aspects that you have to look at. It's got to be fundable. It's got to have an end user. It's got to be an area where it's going to be tenanted quickly. It's got to be an area where the people are going to want to buy it afterwards. I mean, there are so many considerations, and the legals, of course.
Well, this is what we've said before. I mean, this is why we leave a lot of projects on the table without launching them ahead of projects that we do launch. It's a case of, as seen on screen, it's a research-led sourcing approach. We've got a team of analysts we work with as well. But we do look at those key factors. You're right, supply, demand, population growth, government spending, private investments, all these things that make an asset worthy of investment. And where are the tenants going to come from? Is there a large number of employment there? Has it got easy access to London? You know, these are all factors that we look at because we have to see, where are the rental yields? Are they going to cover an offshore mortgage? Is it going to be disposable? You know, all of these things we look at. And if it doesn't meet all of our criteria checklist, Chris, we leave it. We won't launch it and bring it to market. It's as simple as that. So all of the assets that we do bring to market are worthy of investment, and they're going to achieve the rentals, or if not more. Our rental estimates are obviously conservative because we've exceeded those on multiple occasions. So there is a lot of work that goes behind the scenes ahead of seeing a project brought to market. Yeah.
Yeah, you've had some very successful and very popular schemes.
Well, that's what brings me on to the slide here. So even securing the asset, API, for those that don't know, we're not just a distribution company that sell UK property. We actually have 4 different deal types that we work with developers, all of which have a different financial commitment from us, from a joint venture where we'll go in on a purchase with the land, even raising debt and equity against the land for the development finance, an underwrite where we'll commit to buy any property that isn't sold by completion. An overarch agreement means that we'll just put down non-refundable money against each unit or apartment within a development. And then a clean distribution deal means that the developer has just said, we want you to work with us again. Maybe it's our 4th, 5th, 6th property with them, and they want us to sell it exclusively. But either way, we're looking at these different deal structures with different financial inputs from API to make the end purchase viable. So if we need to put down a bit more money to achieve the price that will get the rental yield that's attractive to an investor, then that's what we'll do.
Thank you, Ross.
Perfect. Well, I'd like to jump in here, guys. So as Ross very correctly said, we place a huge emphasis and focus on the research-led portion of the business. Essentially, what we're looking to do as partners with Holborn is package property and provide it to you as if it were any other asset class. So with that, there's a really big impetus on research, understanding, and of course, prediction. So with that, I'd like to kind of jump into the context behind our focus and just give you a bit of insight as to our institutional approach to the market. So starting off, London is the big thing to focus on here. For any of you who are from the UK, or for those of you who are expats in other countries, London is an enormous market, not just in the UK, but in the global marketplace. It's by far the largest economy in the UK. For the most part, it's either the #1 or the #2 largest economy in Europe, which continues despite Brexit. And to put it on a global scale, if London were its own state, it would be in the top 25 of all countries in the world for GDP. So it's an incredibly important location for business. And because of that, it holds a lot of opportunity. You're looking at a very mobile, well-paid workforce. And if you're moving to the country as a kind of employee or employer, then it's the best opportunities for business and employment. Now, coming on to that, that's all very well and good. It's all very exciting. But for any of us that have done a bit of research into the UK, that's where the big issue comes up with London. It's the pricing. It's an incredibly expensive city. If you look at the average price in the UK, London is about 120% higher. So as an investor, it's just not as an accessible a market when you look at London proper. You have high entry costs. And then, of course, the inverse kind of end to that is that the lower annual returns. So with that, property pricing and the rentals aren't always proportionate. So with London, you can purchase an asset, but then there's always a need to actually contribute more money towards the mortgage each month. And essentially, that doesn't provide you with a passive income. You're there focusing on the end result, which is only realized when you sell the property. So it's a bit of a turn off for quite a few investors. However, we are aware of the importance the London market holds. Again, not just a national, but a global marketplace. It has a real big influence and demand. So with that, we try and be very strategic and intelligent in our positioning. We want to provide our clients with access to the London market, but to do so, we have to be quite strategic in how we access that. And that's essentially where the commuter market comes in. So looking at the regions of the UK, first of all, I will go into the commuter market in a moment, but what I want to do, I'm conscious we've got a lot of different people on our meeting today. So just to bring in a good old-fashioned map, I know we all love them. For those of you who aren't...
I love a map.
These two are big fans. For those of you who aren't massively familiar with the UK, the #7 here represents London. So Greater London, which is London City and the 6 zonal areas around it. And then this area, #8, which is the southeast, this is what we call traditional commuter London. So these are areas just on the edge of Greater London or in the commuter belt that have really good connectivity to the city centre. You're talking 20 to 40 minutes. For reference, the average commute within London is around 62 minutes. So just shows you how convenient these locations are. But the big point, the big takeaway here is just to really contextualize the growth that's happening in this region. And the reason that we're really excited to bring these two projects to you today, if you look at the year-on-year growth, so darker the color, the better the result. So we take London, for example, 7% year-on-year growth and average house price of just under 700,000. The southeast, which is the commuter belt, you're looking at a 30% higher annual growth, a 100% higher monthly growth so far this year. And importantly, the pricing is 30% lower. And again, this is actually a slightly higher price point than what we look at. The important thing though, for those of you that are looking around the rest of the map, as I'm sure you are, it's looking at just how well the southeast performance stacks up against some of these other areas. For the guys on the call who we've worked with directly, different Holborn offices, I know a lot of you will be looking at #5 and the other areas, the Midlands and the North. So it's really promising to see this kind of growth. And as investors, our interest in property, of course, is linked to potential growth. So just to kind of give you a bit more of an introduction to the commuter market. So looking at what it offers. So London, population of 9.5 million. There's around 1.1 million people that commute into London every day for work. That's a huge, huge number. And essentially the reason that people would pick a property in the commuter belt, whether it's to buy or to rent compared to the city centre, it comes down to basic economics, really. You're looking at commuter belt locations having lower property prices, importantly, a lower cost of living. We all know how expensive London and indeed other capital cities are. For any of you that live in a capital city at the moment, I'm sure you've felt the pinch, especially over the last couple of years. But importantly, bringing in the last couple of years into context, looking at things like COVID, different working practices. Commuter belt offers greener amenities. You still have that really convenient access to London, but importantly, you get things like parking, outdoor space, larger properties, and of course, family-friendly, safer environments. So really exciting things in terms of quality of life. We've seen a trend over the last few years, which I'll touch on in a moment. But interestingly, we've started to see a lot of businesses follow this route as well. So commuter locations, they offer a lot of versatility. You can imagine if you're a business that has any kind of involvement in freight, transport, logistics, delivery, it's not easy doing that if you're in the City of London. So having that space equally appeals to businesses. And again, drawing it back to why we're all on the call today, looking at the investment opportunity. So the commuter belt market is a very interesting option because it always kind of gets the best result when it comes to London change. If the London market goes up in pricing, generally people are priced out and they look to live in the suburbs, or the commuter belt options are more attractive for renters. And on the adverse side, with stability, so during the past couple of years with adversity, because the pricing is much more naturalized and level and there's not a premium, people equally, when it comes to adverse times, look to the commuter locations as well. And that essentially comes down to two important things as an investor: higher rental yields because lower property prices, but similar rental, and then more growth because the ceiling for these areas to grow in pricing to catch up with London is very, very high. And just before I pass you back across to Ross, what I want to do really is just kind of touch upon how much the last couple of years have worked to the benefit of the commuter market. For a lot of you who maybe aren't too familiar with the UK, one of the pressing questions that all of us ask now with any kind of new investment or financial endeavor, it's what is the current market like? What's happened over the last couple of years with COVID? And interestingly enough, we've seen something called the halo effect in London. This has been happening consistently over the last 10 years due to price increases in the city, but in particular over the last couple of years, we've seen a real rise in interest in these outer areas. If we look at this map of London here, so this, for any of you who are looking and have no idea which country I'm showing you, this is London. You have the city centre here, the Thames River, and then importantly, the light colours signify rental price loss and the darker colours signify rental price growth. So this is the price people pay to live in these areas. And over the last year, you can see the city centre has become more and more unpopular. And that's where the phrase halo effect comes from. People have been moving to the edges of Greater London and importantly to the commuter belt in search of that cheaper accommodation and better living. And just to tie off my section here, really, just to kind of really put it, I guess, drive the point home on how much change has been. So 8 of the top 10 places in Britain with the biggest price jump since 2012 are actually in the London commuter belt. And 7 of those 8 are in Kent or Surrey, which are the 2 locations that we're proud to introduce today. So I'll pass you back over to Ross.
That's amazing, Tim. Sorry, Ross, I was just going to say thank you, Tim. That was brilliant. Just going to say some questions are coming up, so please don't wait to the end and ask questions. If you've got any questions, please put them on the chat at the bottom. Thanks, Ross.
I was going to say, Tim, you're going to be in high demand to be on calls. I think that was brilliant, mate.
It's like a newsreader. It's like a newsreader.
But it is true. I mean, I live in London. I'm on Zone 6 in London, so I'm on the underground on the tube into London, and that takes me just over 45 minutes to get into Central. So to be in a London commuter belt zone, which has access to a fast train, where you're into London in 35 minutes, you're into London faster than I am. Yet 11 miles further out. So it does make complete sense as the investment case. So the first one we want to run through today is Athena House in Hawley in Surrey. Hawley shouldn't be mistaken with Crawley, although it's very close. They're either side of Gatwick Airport. This is a conversion property that's completing in around 6 weeks' time. Super high quality, a nice boutique development, 24 apartments, and they've been finished to a really high standard. So the developer we've been working with a while, they've said they wanted to finish the property to show us their quality. And we're going there on Friday actually to do some filming. So I'll be able to give everyone some nice walkthrough videos of the show apartments. But these are, again, high quality and true city centre. So when you're within the town of Hawley, you've got the station, which is a bullet train into London. So if you're coming out of London South via Croydon, you'll get out towards Surrey and then get into Hawley. So it is literally a 30-minute train ride into Central. You've got a nice pedestrian area there, lots of eateries. You've got a large Waitrose, which we know what that means. If Waitrose have done their calculations and built the big sites there, then you know that there's good money and well-heeled people there to be enjoying the food of Waitrose. But it's a nice, easy investment. It's small boutique investment, mortgageability. We've run through everything, 0.1% for the ground rent, which is what we need. A 10-yearly review under RPI, again, mortgageability friendly. The warranty, again, is with all of the lenders. We've checked this with our partners. And the rental yields, this is something Tim touched on that I think we need to run again. For a commuter belt London property, you would expect the rental yields to be a lot lower than the Northwest and the Midlands, but it's on par, which is interesting for one. But then what we've managed to do on this project, because of its proximity to Gatwick Airport, which is obviously a huge famous airport and the largest in the UK, we've got the ability to do short-term letting in this development as well. So with the high quality that the developers put in, you've then got durability. So for short-term rentals, it will work. It will work very well. We've run through with our short-term let partner company and had the estimates back. And with the 1 and 2 bedrooms, after all of the outgoing costs, should be around 7 to 8% net rental yield, which is huge.
That's amazing for down there. That is amazing. Just one question that's come in. What is it on the ground floor? Shops?
Retail. It's a clothes shop.
It's just one shop?
Yeah, it's one shop on the whole corner and it's just retail. So it's only clothing. There's no restaurant or gym or nightclub. No, it's just retail.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
That's interesting. Hopefully that answered your question.
So Chris, the main event for you is a map. So as
I love a map.
We love a map. So you can see from the map that's on screen, London is visible on the top of the map there. That's central London with the Thames running through it. And you can basically see where Hawley is. It's directly south out of London. You've got the fast train. And again, you can see from there, from a 2-minute away from being at the station, you can be in London Bridge in 36 minutes. London Victoria, 34 minutes. It's almost like being in zone 3 London on the tube, those sort of train times. So to be on the fast train network is a huge benefit. And this is where we think we're going to see very good capital growth. And that's where you've got a rental demand. Aside from the short-term letting element, you've got a huge amount of professionals that are going to be living in locations like this and commuting into London. Hawley does also stand on its own 2 feet with a lot of businesses based around the airport. So the amount of full-time staff there runs into the thousands, 20,000 plus, and they're all living within 10 minutes of the airport. So even if you weren't to do the short-term let route and get a standard annual 12-month tenancy agreement, the rental demand there is still huge for the area. And because this project we've selected has a much higher spec than other projects, we'll get into the pictures in a second, but that's where you're going to get the higher rental yields and a longer term tenant, which is important for offshore landlords. They don't want tenants coming and going every year. They want people staying long term. So just on the transport links, the airport, we know, the rail network into London is phenomenal. And at times of 34 minutes is, again, you could be in zone 3 London and have the same distance time. Roads, the M23 heads you straight into London. And the A23, interestingly enough, takes you down onto the coast in Brighton in under an hour, just 50 minutes. So it's a really nice sweet spot, Hawley. And it, again, as Tim said, from the research we do, it's not an area immediately people would think to invest in. But when you look at the investment case and unravel it, it makes complete sense on capital growth, rental income, and as a solid asset to hold. So the investment case, as we said, the Gatwick Airport and the values are important. So looking at what Tim said with the playing catch up to London, we can call it 23.3% growth predicted by 2025. You know, the population growth due to new businesses opening there, and there's a lot of business parks opening as we speak, a 20% increase in the population by 2025. That's an exciting time to buy something that's true town centre. New projects coming to the area are obviously going to be spread out and out. This is actually within the town centre, close to all the restaurants and eateries, as we said, and literally a 2-minute walk to Hawley station. And the bottom part there with the Airbnb logo. So the short-term rental is a massive interest to investors because of a yield boosting profile. You buy an asset to make a rental income and also to achieve capital growth. But when we're looking at Greater London as an asset and having rental yields exceeding 7 to 8% net is hugely attractive. And the reason we've put net on there, Chris, is I like to be completely transparent with all investors and consultants, is because we see some other short-term let proposals and offerings in the market with huge double-digit yields attached to them. But what they need to understand is there is a large management cost to short-term lets. There's nightly stays that need to have a cleaner in and out. There's a big management charge. There's advertising costs. You're still paying a service charge. So there's lots of costs that go involved. So I'd rather work out all of those costs and give you a net yield profile, which we're doing today. So actually people are doing their sums correctly.
That's amazing. And obviously you've done your research, you say that, and I know you do. On the mortgage side of things, that's okay on the short hold tenant, not the short hold tenancy, but on the Airbnb type model?
Yeah, because we're going to state it within the lease, but it's not something that's been offered as an assured rental with tenants in situ. So this is an optional extra if clients wish to take it or they don't.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
And you can see from the pictures on the screen, these aren't CGIs. I know we say this a lot, but these are the actual images of the show flat. And all of the apartments have been finished to the same high standard. So you can see for a tenant going into view an apartment, they'll go into this one. If you go to the next one, Tim, they'll go into the apartment. You can see it's a very high quality. They are real wooden floors. You've got really nice ceramic tiles. In the kitchens, Chris, you have built-in Bluetooth speakers in the kitchen. You have wine coolers as integrated within the kitchen cabinetry. These are little optional extras that you don't generally see from investment property for buy-to-let. People
what am I going to do with a Bluetooth speaker, Ross?
Well, you could put your Alexa on, Chris.
Oh, don't say that. It'll probably come on.
Yeah, and as Ross said, with those kind of things, for us who, like, if we already have those things, it doesn't seem as big a deal. But if you're looking on the rental market, I can guarantee from my experience, 80 to 90% of the other apartments in the market just won't have that kind of thing. So it sets you apart a little bit, and it does ensure that you're going to get a tenant quickly. And when you do come to find a new one, the void period is very small. So all those little things are a nice little bonus.
Well, Kieran's pointed out that I might not like Bluetooth, but she's pointed out I might like the wine cooler.
Yeah, the wine fridge is there, and I believe it holds 8 bottles, so it's a good one. It's a high quality one. So we can see on screen London Commuter Belt. The beginning pricing for the 2-bed, sorry, 245,300. So we're on par again with the prime property of the Northwest and the Midlands. So rental yields and the pricing is around the same. But obviously with the investment case being having a London asset or a commuter belt London asset. And as every city grows and swells, this is all of the areas we're discussing today are going to be classed as Greater London in time to come. So to get on the ladder with under 250,000 for Greater London, I think is something you look back in 5 years and say, wow, that's cheap, very cheap. So that's for the 1 bedrooms, and the 2 bedrooms are going to start under 300, so 294, and you've also got the first floor level at 283,800. So some really key price points there, easily accessible on the leverage model, and I think with only a few apartments, it's a boutique development. I think would sell this out in a matter of weeks, not months.
Ross, the questions have come in, and I'll answer it. I'll ask it now. On the mortgage side of things, the leverage side of things, the bond side of things, for our friends in South Africa, we're talking 65, 70%?
again, we speak to that region a lot on mortgages, and it comes down to the client's own criteria. But on the whole, generally, we would start with 50-50 and work back as far as we could with a lender based on the client's criteria. But yes, there are even loan to value rates available with the likes of Gatehouse at 80-20, depending on the criteria.
Actually, I can beat that. I was on a call yesterday with South Africa, and one of their clients down there got 85% loan to value. And another guy down in South Africa, his client got an offer at 3.25% from Zimbabwe. So it seems to be, and we should have had Darren on, but I'm sure he's watching. The mortgage market is getting a little bit friendlier, it seems. But
it's getting a lot friendlier to regions that it has been hard on in years gone by, where people have had to really put down some hard equity at 50% and then wait for their first product to expire in 1 or 2 years to then be deemed as a professional landlord to then get a better loan to value and take some of that cash back out of the project. But yeah, if 80%, 85 would be a dream come true. But generally, we base all of our cash flows on around a 30-70 or 25-75.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And we have got our own mortgage department. And please, if anybody's got any questions, go back through your wealth manager. Dan Crocker does an amazing job. And at the same time, I might as well sort of say, also, he's a good guy to speak to if you've got a property in the UK and want to raise some equity to buy one of these. Sorry, that's my advert out the way for Holborn property mortgages.
You need a jingle on there as well.
Yeah, don't worry, I'm working on a jingle.
Okay, I'll jump back on here again. So as mentioned, we have 2 new launches for you guys. This one is more of a kind of interesting proposition. It's a project that we already have, but we've secured a kind of a risk-free portion of properties available within it. So to keep things kind of short and sweet on this one, I will work through it a little quicker. But importantly, if you would like to find out more details, just reach out to your consultants. The Holborn team are very familiar with this project and it's worked very well for them. So I'll just run you through this and then Ross will be able to come back on and let you know about our other launching projects. So with this particular one, we're looking at Kent. If you can recall about 7.5 minutes ago when I mentioned those good areas to be investing in, Kent is one of the hotspots for commuting. This is a market we have the we have the luck of being active in for the last, I'd say, 1.5 years. So we've seen firsthand just how well it performs. Again, Kent, similar to Surrey, it's in that prime location between the city and the south coast of the UK. Kent also runs along the Eurostar line, so it's incredibly well connected. And we focus on it for similar reasons to the rest of the commuter belt. There's been a big investment from the UK government, also from the European Regional Development Fund. So back when we were on talking terms with Europe, Kent was one of the big focus points for European investment, and that was to connect north of Europe to the UK, and Kent was seen as the gateway for that. So it's a bit of a hotbed for business. It's incredibly good location for commuting due to the same reasons I've already mentioned, but it has a really good balance of kind of being that London commuter hotspot, but also standing up on its own 2 legs as a very strong location for local workers and living. So just to kind of take you through the development, it's a lovely project with one of our major developers, a company called Elevate Property. We've worked with them across the UK. They launched this project with us last year and it's performed really well. The good news for those of you who are a little more risk averse, it's completed, it's a proven asset, and all of the apartments come with a tenant in place. So when we say risk-free, it's about as risk-free as you can get. You're purchasing a property that already has a tenant in who's already going to provide you with an immediate yield. The development itself is really well designed. You're looking at large 2-bedroom properties, 2-bedroom, 3-bathroom, private balcony, private underground parking, communal gardens, residents' working lounge, all of those points that, if you recall, they're the things that drive people towards the commuter zones instead of the small and more cramped city centre accommodation. So really kind of playing on the factors that appeal to the demographic we're interested in. Again, very well situated for investors, looking at a very low service charge, very low ground rents. The yields are actually a little higher than 5% now. So you're looking at 5% in the market around 6 months ago, but with the newer leases that we've started to sign, that's going up to 5.5%, and that's simply governed by demand. So looking at connectivity as well. So again, I won't focus on this too much, but touching on that key kind of time zone that Ross has mentioned, that I've mentioned, that 30 to 40 minute commute into London city centre is so important. The good news with this project, it's a 3-minute walk to the train station. It's known as HS1, so it's a high-speed direct train right into the heart of London. Really good for commuters. And also, we've noticed over the last couple of years, really good for businesses as well. And that's one of the exciting things. Again, I mentioned that business migration to commuter locations. It's not just people who are attracted to these locations, businesses are as well. And for us, very topical news, they're building an international film studio next door to our development, about 800 meters away. And at the moment, there's currently a bidding war between Netflix, Amazon, and HBO, and this will be their permanent their permanent filming site. So really interesting for them as well. They have access to the Eurostar, so you can get to Brussels in an hour and a half, Paris in an hour and 50, and importantly, central London in 36 minutes. So looking again, as mentioned, we know what works in the market. We've been active for around 10 years now, so we've tried all different methods. We know what the main demographic is, and we design these apartments with the end user in mind. So you're looking at kind of high functioning, high-end properties, still appealing to the broadest portion of the market, but just there with the end user in mind. And essentially this is what we're looking to provide. So you can see mixture of floors available as well. So it's a 5-floor development. We've got options on almost every floor. You're looking at large apartments. So this is net internal area. You've also got a private balcony as well, which is around 80 to 100 square foot, and you've got underground parking. So you really get a lot for your money with this. Again, comparing that to London, if we just think back to a few slides ago, this year, the average price in London is just a hair under 700,000. You're looking at over 50% cheaper, which is really big news for a commuter. If you're a renter or a property owner, it's almost becoming a no-brainer with locations like these. And again, that's reflected in the rental return. So these kind of yields, as mentioned, a lot of these were set midway through last year. So I know that Ross and myself would both be very confident in saying when these do come back to market, that £1,100 a month in line with current market conditions is going to be closer to 1,250, 1,300, which is important for us. Well, you can
I think, mate, it's a very good point, Tim. And this is why we're excited to get these apartments. So we had a very good success on Victoria Point. All of the clients that had purchased in there have had solid mortgage valuations. We've had tenants in on an average of 7 days to get tenants in and moved in and contracts signed. So with that in mind, the developer held back some units for themselves off plan. They have upgraded them. So there's wardrobes in both bedrooms that are fitted and wooden blinds throughout the apartments. They've got tenants in situ already. What that means is there won't be any void period, small or large. There won't be any letting setup costs to pay because you already have an existing tenant. So all that needs to happen to increase the yield, which is just a positive and a plus for making this investment, is if we look at the column there for tenancy expiry, a number of the contracts expire in August this year, June this year, and one towards the end in November. The ones that you can see they're on rolling contracts means they're just already running on month-to-month contracts. The market rent column is what we're achieving through Redstone currently. So to go back to a tenant that's already in place to say either you would need to vacate within a 30-day period or to increase to the current market rent is a separate negotiation to have, which we would do on your behalf, or you would make the property vacant and take a new tenant at market rate. But either way, you'd be income generating from day one. I think that's the important point. From the second you've completed on the project, you will inherit that tenant and that income. The only property there currently vacant is the show flat, which we've obviously been using as a show flat for the sales, which is on unit 2 on the ground floor. It's an oversized unit. It's around 10% larger than all of the other properties there, but it has got a full property, a full interior design package, as well as full furniture. There's around £35,000 worth of extras in this apartment. So that is a great apartment to buy long term.
That's available now, the show house.
Yep, it wasn't before because we've obviously been using it.
Yeah.
Now most of the surveyors have been in. We've been using it to guide surveyors around just to see the quality and the functionality of the apartments. But yeah, we're going to be selling that one now.
I think at 308,000 is in that location. It's pretty amazing, actually, isn't it?
Well, I mean, and considering the extras you're getting, it's got a very high quality furniture pack throughout, and it's full furniture, including soft furnishings, and it's been interior designed. So we've got pictures and video walkthroughs available. So anyone interested, please contact any of your Holborn advisors, and we'll make sure we've got that over to you today.
Right. Well, oh, Cambridge. Now, I went to Cambridge. Thought I'd let you know.
There you go. Well, you can do this presentation then.
Fine. Okay. Right in the heart of Cambridge is a beautiful university.
So, well, we are right in the heart of Cambridge. So this is just a sneak peek of a nice boutique project we're looking to launch with Holborn in the next couple of weeks. So I'll just be giving you a rundown on it today. The picture on screen, the right-hand portion with a little blue logo on it is the hotel on the side, and then the development is the other portion to the left-hand side. So it's only 13 apartments over 3 floors. So they're big, nice size apartments, and it is right in the heart of Cambridge. So if you just roll through, Tim.
Perfect. Yeah. So again, just coming on talking about that kind of investment case that's so important. As I mentioned with the Kent side as well, Cambridge is already a commuter hotspot. For any of you that have been there, it's a beautiful part of the UK. There's a really strong allure to be living there, and that translates really well into the market there. You've got a lot of people who live in Cambridge and commute to London on a daily basis. Again, you're looking at that commute time in the range of 40 to 50 minutes, which again is about 10-15% quicker than the average London commute time. So you're right in the right target market there. However, as mentioned with Kent, there's an added bonus here, and that's the Cambridge economy itself. There's a lot going on in the city. For those of you who haven't been to the UK or Cambridge, I guarantee you'll have known it through the university. And that's really the first point. It's that first-class education that Cambridge can boast. It's consistently the #1, the #2, or the #3 best university in the world, which is a massive accolade to have. So that world-leading status for higher education over the last kind of 20-30 years, it's become a hotbed for research, science, and technology. When you've got that kind of brain power studying and graduating in the region, it's a really interesting location for businesses that focus on the R&D sector. And because of that, a major part of the Cambridge economy now is Cambridge Science Park. And that's where you find a really good meshing of kind of the education side and also the business side. And it also a big contributor to the economic growth there. So Cambridge and that science park is actually home to AstraZeneca, to Hawley, now the biggest mobile company, and also Toshiba. These are just 3 of maybe 50 companies that are actually based in the science park, and that grows every year. It's a hotbed for startups and venture capital because of all the potential we have there. And because of this, over the last few years, Cambridge has now taken the lead as the leading regional city for tech. And again, just touching on those points I mentioned before, you have all of this packaged in Kent, but again, you also have that really strong appeal to the commuter market as well. So just before I pass you back across to look at the developments, always important to look at the numbers and the performance as mentioned. And this is a really strong graph for us. We can see that historically Cambridge has always outperformed the UK market in general. And looking back at the last 5 or 6 years, that's where you see the real kind of separation between the UK average and Cambridge. It's a really good sign for those of you looking at investing in the area. Of course, it comes down to the bottom line. We're looking for growth, we're looking for capital appreciation, and this kind of past performance is a really good indicator of what we can expect in the future. Pass you back over to Ross.
Thanks, Tim. So as I said, boutique development, 13 apartments, just over 3 floors. These are super high quality. As Tim said, you know, we're aiming for big capital growth. We've got a lot of competition. There's a lot of very high-end projects in Cambridge because of all the well-paid local professionals, as well as the education facilities. There's a lot of Hong Kong that travel over and get educated in Cambridge, and they want higher quality properties to live in. So prices from 360, but again, when we're looking at the London average, that then looks cheap. But for obviously investing within the London Commuter Belt, it is of the higher end, but Cambridge doesn't necessarily just sit on the investment case of it's commutable to London.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the tenants that you're going to be attracting are employed locally as professionals. So size-wise, as we said, just 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, nothing weird and wonderful with any duplexes or penthouses, very traditional, but well laid out, well thought out, and well designed.
Perfect. I think that.
So, Chris and Matt, if you're with your Cambridge knowledge, you should be able to decipher this one.
Well, I actually stayed in the University Arms Hotel, and I was there for 2 years, right next to Jesus Green. There were some nice bars there, and it's a beautiful, beautiful city. And in fact, the first property I ever bought was in Newark, which wasn't that far away. And this shows how old I am. It was £13,250, and I got a £10,000 mortgage. But yes, it's a stunning city, and get on the river. Everyone knows Cambridge, but
do you
tell you what,
have
that price.
Property?
No, do you know what? There are some mistakes we all make, and no, I didn't. And I've got, you know, everyone's got some anecdotal stories of their properties, and I think everyone would agree: hold, don't sell, remortgage, and move on. So yeah. So thanks for asking that question,
We can see
Ross.
on screen. I mean, so where you were, the green is just to the left there. You can see it's literally a walking distance. But this is sandwiched right in the centre. So again, as Tim's rightly gone over, you're sandwiched between the station, the universities, the science park, the business park. So it really it does stand on its own 2 feet as an investment case, Cambridge. Everything you need there. However, if you are employed in London, it is 45 minutes away on the fast train into Central. So you've got the best of both worlds with Cambridge, but as an investment case, it's tried and tested. This is something we've looked at, and the pricing is not over the top for what you're getting, for the price per square foot, for the quality, and against the rental yields. So I do think pricing in Cambridge is going to grow significantly, and this is a very good entry-level product to get into for the area.
I tell you what my problem is now. It's like going to a restaurant and seeing 3 dishes on the menu that you've just provided and go, oh, well, which one do I go for then? Because they all look stunning. They've all got great stories. Yeah, that's the difficult one for us.
As well, it's a good hedge. I mean, we've got lots of repeat investors as well as part of Holborn that we've dealt with that have within their portfolio a Manchester or a Birmingham already. So to get into the London market with a commuter belt product is very sensible.
Yeah, it's just which one.
Take one of each,
the good
Chris.
thing is we've done a whole webinar without mentioning HS2, so I'm delighted about that. You've covered all the questions coming in. You've covered them as we've gone along, and so many on. So thank you very much, everybody. And Tim, welcome back any time to do the show. Welcome.
Yeah, you've been brilliant, Tim. Well done.
Thank you, everybody. Any other questions? This has been recorded. And apart from BBC and usual channels, it will be on the our website, Holborn Assets Property website, along with other recordings, including others with API. So you can go back and have a look. Tim, all I can say is brilliant. Thank you very much. Ross, as always got a good map on hand. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks for your time today, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.